Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into the profound wisdom of Surah Al-Kahf. Now, this is a chapter of the Qur'an that, especially when you hear it recited by someone like Sheikh Yasser al-Dusari, you don't just hear words. You really feel this powerful roadmap for life's biggest challenges. It's a refuge and a guiding light for millions every single Friday.
So the surah kicks off, not with a story, but with this incredible declaration of praise. Right from the very first verse, it establishes its perfection, its divine origin. It just creates this sense of awe and gets us ready for the deep lessons that are about to unfold.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. We're going to walk through 6 main parts, and at the heart of it are 4 central stories. And trust me, each of these stories zeroes in on a fundamental trial of life and gives us this timeless wisdom on how to get through it. You know, this chapter is really seen as a source of protection, of enlightenment. For so many people, reciting it on Friday is like hitting a reset button. It becomes a spiritual compass that helps them get their bearings for the week ahead. All right, so let's get into our first story, and it is a gripping tale of courage. It really tackles that immense challenge of staying true to what you believe when you're facing overwhelming pressure from, well, everyone. This is the trial of faith. I mean, just imagine it. You're faced with this stark choice. Either give up your core beliefs or face certain death. That was the reality for these young men. But they chose a third way. They decided to flee, leaving everything behind to find shelter in a lonely cave, literally putting their entire lives in God's hands. And in this moment of just absolute crisis, their prayer is just, wow, it's so remarkable. They don't ask to be rescued or for their enemies to be destroyed. They ask for mercy and for right guidance. It's this profound act of faith, a complete surrender to whatever God has planned, even when they have no idea what's coming next. So this story perfectly illustrates what we call the trial of faith. And it's a theme that's absolutely timeless. I mean, it resonates whenever our personal beliefs are challenged by the world around us, whether that's pressure to conform online or to compromise your values at work. The big lesson here, sticking to your principles and trusting the plan are the keys. Okay, moving on to our second story. This one's a powerful parable about a completely different kind of test, a trial that comes not from hardship, but from having a lot, from wealth and abundance. So what we have here is this really sharp, dramatic contrast between two guys, two completely different ways of thinking. On one side, you've got the arrogant owner. He looks at his amazing gardens and says, "Yeah, I did this. This is all me." And on the other side, his faithful friend gently tries to remind him, hey, remember where all this really comes from. And the consequence for his arrogance? It was swift and it was total. His personal paradise was just wiped out overnight. It's such a powerful demonstration of how fragile our wealth can be when it's not tied to a sense of gratitude. And that's the heart of the trial of wealth. It's a huge reminder that worldly success, the career, the status, the stuff, can really start to corrupt us if we don't keep it in check with humility and constantly remember the true source of all our blessings. All right, our third story. This one is something else. It takes us on this fascinating, almost mystical journey that explores the absolute limits of what we as humans can understand, and the huge, often hidden nature of divine wisdom. So you have the great Prophet Moses, and he's asked to follow this wise servant of God, a teacher known as Al-Khidr. But on their trip, this teacher does 3 things that just seem wrong. They seem unjust, cruel, totally inexplicable, and Moses, with all his wisdom, just can't stop himself from questioning them. Finally, when Moses has had enough, the teacher turns to him and basically says, "Okay, you couldn't be patient. Let me show you what was really going on." And we find out that behind every one of these seemingly senseless acts, there was a deep, hidden mercy, a wisdom that Moses just couldn't see from his limited human point of view. And this is where it all just clicks into place. Damaging that boat, it actually saved it from being stolen by a tyrant. The tragic loss of that youth, it spared his parents from a future of heartbreak. And fixing that wall for ungrateful people, it was protecting a treasure for 2 orphans. It shows us that what looks harmful might actually be a protection, and what seems senseless can be part of a much bigger, much more compassionate divine plan. This whole journey really forces us to rethink our relationship with knowledge. It is the trial of knowledge. It's a test that pushes us to be humble, to be patient, and to be trusting,
especially when things happen in our own lives or in the world that we just can't make sense of right away.
And that brings us to our final story. Here we meet Dhul-Qarnayn, a great and just ruler who travels all over the world. And his journey brings him face to face with the ultimate test, the trial of having immense power and authority.
So he finds this vulnerable community, and they are terrified of this destructive force. They even offer to pay him to build a wall to protect them. But instead of exploiting them or demanding more, he uses the power, the resources, and the skills God gave him to serve them, to protect them.
But what's really amazing is his reaction afterwards. After he completes this monumental project, he doesn't take any of the credit. He doesn't pat himself on the back. He immediately says, "This is a mercy from my Lord." He points all the success back to God, showing what a truly humble leader he is.
You see, this story teaches us that true power isn't about domination or making yourself famous. It's about responsibility. It's a test to see if we use whatever influence we have, whether we're a CEO, a parent, or just a friend, for justice and to help people, instead of for our own personal gain.
Okay, so let's bring it all together. We've got these 4 incredible stories about faith, wealth, knowledge, and power. What do they teach us about our own lives today? How do these ancient tales speak to our very modern problems?
When you look at them all together, you see it, right? These 4 stories in Surah Al-Kahf give us a complete framework, a spiritual compass for navigating the biggest tests we're all going to face. The message is pretty clear. Whether you're dealing with persecution, prosperity, confusion, or authority, faith is what's going to guide you through the storm. So as we wrap up this explainer, the real question is for you. In the middle of our own complex lives, which one of these ancient lessons, which one of these trials speaks most directly to what you're facing right now? Which story offers that timeless light that you might just need for the path ahead?